in terms of introduction, so today's workshop is focusing on managing your mindset, or mastering your mindset, as it says at the top. And whilst we'll be framing this workshop around kind of in consideration, if you like, of the transformation challenge, and specifically being 4 weeks, heading into your 5th week of the challenge, I hope that this is something that you can take with you post the transformation challenge, into your relationship with fitness, with Orange Theory, but also into your relationship kind of with your family, with your friends, with your workplace, with colleagues. So this isn't just useful or valuable for this 8 weeks transformation challenge that you're in, although we will frame it in that lens as we go on. And I guess before we get into that bulk of today's session, I just wanted to share a little bit about who I am, for those of you that don't know me, and why I'm here today talking about mastering your mindset. So my name's Fionnuala, or Fee, and I've been an OTF member since the Derby branch opened its doors, so that was roughly in November 2019, I think. Come from an incredibly sporty background, most notably sailing, so sailing nationally, internationally since I was young, and as you can imagine, spent my fair amount of time engaging in various forms of fitness workouts. Some were more enjoyable than others, but I can certainly say that Orange has kept me going and been really pivotal in kind of an important, really, part of my life, since stopping competing so competitively, but still keeping something which is challenging, something which pushes, something where you're continually learning from the coaches, and an environment which is inspiring and motivating. Some of you might see, I think Katie certainly, but although I'm a member at Derby, my work takes me all over the place. And so I have been at the Altrincham branch and also down in a couple of the London ones. So if any of you are around and about there, I would recommend dropping in, because they've been really welcoming. And I guess with that in mind, on that professional perspective, I'm a performance psychologist specialising working in sport and exercise. And the focus of my work as a psychologist is at an elite level, so with 2 key roles, one within British gymnastics, and I guess crucially with gymnasts that are maybe aspiring for the next Olympic Games, even though we've just had one, but for Paris 2024. And the second key role really being working at Manchester United Football Club with their academy. A number of other roles which I try and fit in around that, working at the English Institute of Sport in their performance innovation team, with British Sailing, and alongside that completing a doctorate up at Liverpool John Moores University. And so whilst that variety in sports is really, there's a lot of depth to that, a lot of breadth to that in terms of cultures, in terms of technical and tactical demands that the sports have, the operations of the organisations themselves, and then my roles and responsibilities. The key essence of my job is to create an environment where athletes, coaches and staff can really be the best they can be on that given day. So my role is about mentally preparing athletes to develop their understanding of who they are, how they operate, and crucially support them to bring out their best under the pressure of competition environments. And in terms of what that means for today, my aim here today is to share a little bit about some of these learnings, and bringing the elements of how I operate as a psychologist into or from the Olympic and professional sporting environment into the transformation challenge, and how hopefully we can use these elements to bring the best that you can be on any given day that you have in the future. And so now I've shared that little bit about me with that big smiley face. I'd like to share a little bit more, or the plan really is to share a little bit more around psychology, how I work as a psychologist, and then also going into moving on to kind of a short 3-step process to get us curious about the psychology behind our own individual journeys in this transformation challenge. And this workshop this evening, it's not going to be kind of a magic pill, as quite often I get asked with psychology, oh, you're gonna fix me, or can you read my mind? I can't, but hopefully what this will is provide you with some golden nuggets which will spark some curiosity about your mindset, about how you approach your training, about how you approach your relationship with fitness, and provide you a foundation to build upon, not just for the 4 weeks that we've got left of this challenge, but also beyond that. The aim being that when we can start to bring our awareness to who we are as individuals, we're able to develop and listen to our own unique thoughts and beliefs about the world as we progress forward on that journey. Move my slides on. So as mentioned right at the start, I'd love this to be like a little bit informal and interactive. So if there are any questions, then like I said, just wanted to reiterate that as we go along. So before we go into maybe that kind of that 3-step process I was mentioning, just want to get us warmed up with a little bit around kind of psychology and what psychology is. Now, psychology can be split into two key parts. We've got the psych and we've got the ology. So psych meaning soul and ology meaning study. So quite literally, psychology is the study of the soul. Now, if we go a little bit deeper into that, it's the scientific study of behaviour, or of the behaviour of individuals, but also their mental processes, exploring the key individual differences in psychological attributes that people might have. And if we were to apply this now into that sporting context, what we aim to do, or what I aim to do as a performance and sports psychologist, is how we can help generate our understanding, or the client in question's understanding of their individual differences by considering how our thoughts, how our feelings, and how our behaviours interact to influence that performance, whether that be in the gym, whether that be on the pitch, whether that be on the court, or on the track. And I guess for me, it'd be interesting to maybe get some of your guys' perspectives later on what made you tune in today. But one of the reasons which kind of psychology fascinates me so much is that our mind can both be our biggest asset. It can push us through. It can push us through maybe some of those all outs on the treadmill, or it can keep us going in those challenges past previous benchmarks, which definitely has me. But it can also be our biggest downfall. Our mind can frequently cause problems, but it can also, in understanding our mind, it can help us find the solutions to many challenges. What we need to do is to be aware of that. Now, I guess as a human being, we view experiences, we view objects and people through different frames, and we all have our own kind of unique personal frame. A frame which is built, developed and created over time based on our previous experiences that we've had as a human. And as a psychologist, it's these frames that I support people to understand, to unpick, and to explore. And in doing so, helps us understand those thoughts, those feelings, those behaviours that we have about certain situations and events that might have taken place. And I guess in essence, by understanding these frames, by bringing our own awareness to what our frame is, we can help ourselves to better optimise performance, or better know how we'd like to act on any given day. Hopefully through the rest of the next however long's left, 50 minutes or so, I'll help share a little light on maybe what your frames are, and how you might therefore move forward with that view of the world in terms of optimising your performance in the gym. So now I guess knowing and seeing these frames does make a difference, and I've got a few images that I'm going to go through, but before I do, because there's not too many of us, so if you're in a relatively quiet place, it'd be great actually if you could maybe unmute yourself, and when an image pops up on the screen, just say what the first thing is that you see, and it'd be great to see if we could get a sense of maybe what's coming up for us. So hopefully we've got a little bit there. Right, first one.
Duck.
Okay. I'm loving the Derby accents there.
Rabbit.
Rabbit. We've got a duck, a rabbit. Absolutely, there is both a duck and a rabbit, and see if you can try and see the other one. So the one that you didn't see first, does that pop up? Can you see it? This next one. What do we see? Horse. Have we got any other advances on horse?
I can see the seal as well.
Yeah, you see the seal.
Oh, yes, I've got that one now. It's a good one. Seal.
Yeah. It's a funny one, isn't it? Got this one. So which way is she spinning? Is she spinning clockwise or anti-clockwise?
Anti-clockwise.
Anti-clockwise, yeah.
Clockwise.
Clockwise.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I can see the other way as well now. Yeah.
You got the other way. That was quick. That was quick. Can you make the figure turn around and go the opposite way to the way that you're currently seeing her?
No, I can't. I can't see clockwise at all. I can just see anti-clockwise.
If you take your gaze to the right hand leg, you might be able to switch it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've switched her. That is so weird. That is fantastic. I've not seen that one before.
I'd love to say that it was me kind of messing, but actually it
Yeah.
is the same image, and I'm not pressing any buttons, I do promise. But here you can see it's the same image, and this is all about the depth perception of the figures, and how we perceive that that depth. I'll go into that in a little bit.
Is the background part of that? Does the background help with that or not? Or is it just about the image?
There's a little bit about the image, but no, the background doesn't. It's mainly the image. It will help a little bit, but it's all around kind of what our brain's expecting to see, and it tries to piece together. Then, based on previous experiences, this is maybe what I'm seeing if it's on this background. So there's a little bit, but it's more around the colours. So it could be a different colour. So it could be like pink, but still that shaded, and it would work. And then the last one we've got, so this collection of dots, do you see anything in the image, or what do you see the image of?
I see a Dalmatian.
The pig.
A pig, Dalmatian, a pig.
Yeah, a doggy and a tree in the background.
True.
Excuse me.
Absolutely. So I guess there's various theories within the field of psychology which consider whether perception, so how we're seeing what we're seeing on the screen in front of us, is based solely on information which is received by our eyes and then processed, or whether actually it's kind of top-down processes which refer to where our mind generates expectations of what we're looking at based upon maybe our upbringing, the culture we've grown up in, various other elements in our life. And it's these expectations that kind of help us make sense of the information that our eyes are receiving. So for example, I don't think I've got the next one on, but we'll click on there. But I guess that kind of answers your question a little bit, Carolyn, at the start there, around kind of fundamentally our brain operates as this kind of pattern matching recognition machine, which predicts the future based on past events. And so that's definitely for visual perception, but this also happens with other things such as emotions, our thoughts, our actions, which is why getting to understand the lens and that frame that we as an individual view the world through can be so important, or can be valuable in helping to understand maybe why we do what we do. So, I might just try and move us on now. And crucially, we I quite liked this image when I was choosing a few different images to use, because we see the world not as it is, but we see it as we are. So we see the world based on the experiences that we've had as an individual. And again, going back to the role of psychology and the role of psychology and maybe your transformation challenge, what experiences, what beliefs, what values do you hold, which actually you take in with you into the gym environment, and therefore impact how you're thinking, how you're feeling, how you're behaving as you approach maybe the latter ends of this transformation challenge. That's just a question to get you started, and we might dig a little bit deeper now. So on to this three-step process that I was alluding to at the start. Now this is, hopefully you'll like the slogan I've come up with. Relates very much to Orange, so I'm sure Katie will like it. But we've got 3 key steps. We've got ready, we've got set, and we've got splat. As a brief overview before we do dive into them, ready is all about focusing and connecting back to your why. Set is all about delving into and understanding a little bit more about your values as a human being and how you want to be. And splat explores your actions and intentions for how you're going to act in line with some of those values to move a little bit closer to your goals and to that overarching why. And hopefully this kind of ready, steady, splat analogy will give you some food for thought, but by no means will it be that golden ticket to a mentally robust mindset. But hopefully what it will do is help you reflect on that best version of you, what you can do to maybe practically apply, or certainly begin to practically apply in the next 4 weeks to help you along the way. So kicking off with Ready. Ready is about reconnecting with that why, reconnecting with why you started this transformation challenge. And I know you've had some opportunities, I believe, to engage in your kind of why Wednesday. So I want you to have a think about 30 seconds or so, why you personally are doing this challenge. We don't need to share it as such, but if anyone does want to, then feel free. But as you're thinking about the why, as you're thinking about why you signed up, why you sent in that direct message, why you signed up either on Facebook to one of the coaches or in the studio, get that mental picture of that in your head, kind of make that visually strong, visually deep inside of you. And I guess in this instance, got a lovely picture of the rose, but in this instance, kind of finishing that sentence, if you started the transformation challenge because, and I want us to unpick those layers. So quite often we tend to, as humans, we tend to stop at that initial initial answer to the question, well, this is why I'm doing it. Today I want us just to take that to the next level and unpick those layers through the various different reasons as to why. As I said, often we maybe stop at one, but I just want us to keep going. So I'll give you a bit of an example and have a go at doing this with your why, with that image that you've got in your head as to why you started this today. So a simple one in terms of in relation to fitness and to Orange Theory. So why do you want to lose weight? The answer being maybe to look better. Why do you want to look better? Because if I look better, I feel more comfortable in my job, presenting in front of people. Why do you want to feel more comfortable when presenting? Because when I feel more comfortable presenting, I feel good about myself. Why do you want to feel good about yourself? Because when I feel good about myself, I feel like I'm better able to help those clients in front of me and be a better role model for them. Why do you want to be a better role model for your clients? So you can see where I'm going with this. And I think when you're doing this for yourself, if you can imagine a small child who's at that really curious age, piquing in curiosity, and all they seem to ask is why? Oh, why is that? Why is that, mum? Why is that, dad? No, I was probably one of those children. So start that process off with yourself. And what you'll tend to find is that kind of really starts to illustrate the small power of taking the time to reconnect with that why, just sitting down to actually unpick those layers, go deep into that spiral, repeating that process again, maybe 5 times or so. It might require a little bit of that vulnerability, that honesty, and that degree of kind of self-reflection in order for it to go through that process. But by the end, you'll probably have found that there's a deeper motivator there, something to draw upon when that enjoyment of the workout at 6 a.m. that I know some of you do, isn't quite enough. I've not quite got myself to a 6 a.m. yet, so maybe I need to reconnect with my why. But certainly the chances are that the deeper why is going to motivate you more. It's going to motivate you more than maybe a new workout outfit, or you being able to look better in those jeans. Maybe it's a little bit more about being able to care and to carry your grandchildren, feel fit and healthy in the process of doing so. Have we got anyone that feels happy to maybe share their why, or why they began, why they signed that dotted line, if you like, for the Transformation Challenge?
I'm happy to share.
Go for it, Hannah, thank you.
I joined the Transformation Challenge because I wanted the structure. When they said 3 times a week, I thought, that'll be great for me because it's structure. I know it will give me a reason to go. So it was the structure of 3 times a week, and it gave me a reason to go.
Brilliant, thanks Hannah, thank you for sharing. If we were to unpack some of those layers, what is it about the structure that helps you? Why will the structure?
Why will this? I think in the back of my mind, I'm always quite anxious and scared that maybe one week I'll just go, do you know what, I'm not going to bother. So the structure gives me more confidence and makes me feel less anxious.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think in a way.
Yeah. Wow,
Because without it, I think I'd just maybe not go. But or would I? I don't know. I just like the structure. I feel less anxious with it. And it makes me feel more confident that I am going to go.
Yeah. You've committed to it.
Absolutely.
And
You will get on these 6 a.m s, by the way.
already you're seeing there, just with one layer down that spiral, that you're getting to a deeper sense of maybe what's really motivating you, or the underlying reasons as to why you've joined this challenge. It's not just the structure, but maybe it's something there around being able to provide you with that confidence and the commitment aspect to carry on and to go forward. First off there, that having that structure, having that certainty, I guess as a human being, we always strive for clarity. So that definitely seems to kind of make sense with maybe what we crave as humans as well.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah, for sharing. Moving on to set. So set is that kind of second component, and it leads us quite nicely kind of going from the motivation aspect of ready into set. And they're kind of the two areas that I'm going to touch upon here are the role of values, values being what really matter to us deep down in our hearts, and kind of the psychological and the neurological side to motivation and to habit formation. So set really is all about being able to focus and drill down on how we can use values, how we can use that understanding of what really matters to us to help drive us forward, to tap into that motivation for the transformation challenge, but also other times that maybe we find particularly challenging or just in our day-to-day lives. Now this picture of the brain in front of you, there is a key aspect of our brain which is relevant here for motivation, and that is the reward centre. Now the striatum, which is located, it's kind of near the right in the middle of the brain, probably near where the creamy brown colour is, at the top, or kind of middle of the top. Now the striatum is a principal component of that reward centre, located right deep in the middle. And the neurons here, the neurons in this part of the brain communicate using a neurotransmitter, which I'm sure you've well heard of, dopamine, which releases, and this release of dopamine, I guess, enhances our reward-related memories, our reward-related emotional reactions to certain situations. Now, these dopamine responses vary from person to person. Some of us will more strongly respond to certain rewards than others. And our dopamine levels will therefore be greater than others. Simply put, I guess as individuals, we'll all be motivated by different things and at different levels. But we have the power to influence that, how much dopamine is released and how we can tap into our reward centre, how we can tap into that striatum, and how we make decisions, how we link that to rewards through our values. We just need to spend a little bit of time to unpick that. And I guess the reason why I'm starting with this is that if we can connect, as I just alluded to there, if we can connect our values to why we do what we do, if we can choose what we want to be mindful of, and we can connect this to why we are doing this in the transformation challenge, at that neurological and psychological level, we're more likely to be tapping into our own intrinsic, so our own internal motivations, and therefore more likely to stick something out. We're more likely to be committed and carry on even when motivation isn't there. We know from the work in sport that those athletes surely, they are sure not motivated every day, but what they do have is commitment, and they for sure know why they're doing what they're doing, and that's what they tap into, as opposed to having to feel like they're motivated every single day to train, some of them 6, 7, 8 hours a day. And I guess with that in mind, in exploring kind of what motivates us, I want us to consider kind of the values, so those things that we really care about deep down in our hearts. And acting, there we go. Acting, I guess, in accordance to our values provides a bit of a sense of meaning and consistency in our actions. So this might be something, Hannah, that you were saying, because you quite like that structure, or it gives you a sense of confidence there. This might be something which might particularly resonate with you, because as humans, again, we strive for meaning. We try and make sense out of anything we can, quite often not very well, and sometimes making wild links where they're not even possible. But that is what we're trying to do as humans, and that's just a natural tendency for us. And we've seen that in some of the visual images that I showed earlier. One way to create meaning and to create a little bit of clarity in that is through our values. So our values are personal statements. They're what we consider important in our lives. These might evolve as we progress through life, but usually they'll stay fairly stable and fairly consistent as we do progress. So quite different to goals in that instance. And they help, I guess, from a sporting sense anyway. Athletes experience a variety of kind of stressful situations in training and in competitions as they're striving to be the best in the world at a lot of things, or in their sport, sorry. And in times of that kind of emotional ups and downs, it's easy to get carried away, to lose track of those values and act purely on emotion. Now, sometimes those emotions do move us forward, or they move us closer to where we want to be, but often they can push us and take us slightly off track. So I've never really spoken to an athlete who said that an outburst at a coach was a helpful way to respond. But being able to catch oneself in that moment, in that emotional outburst where they do want to say something, remind ourselves of how we want to act and how we want to be towards others, can be really helpful to stay on track, to stay acting in line with those values. And I guess with that in mind, a fundamental part of my role as a psychologist and the way I practice as an applied practitioner, and there's various different types of applied psychology practitioners out there. But my way is around helping people develop a greater sense of understanding and awareness of what really matters to them, so that what they're doing means something, so that they live that life which is meaningful no matter what they're doing. And I guess a good phrase I like is that we can't have the ups without the downs, and often challenges are messy and difficult and involve bumps along the way. And I'm sure there's been a couple of bumps or a couple of obstacles in the last 4 weeks, which maybe have got you in some way or another. But to help us here, these values are like a compass. If we imagine them as a compass, we keep moving towards them, whereas goals are maybe things that we achieve along the way. Take west, for example, on that compass. No matter where you are, you never get west. You're always working your way towards it, just like a value. You could always think about values as well in the, move on to the next one, quite a peaceful, serene picture of a lighthouse here, but thinking of values as a lighthouse which shows you the way in life. The light can guide you towards what matters, regardless of the waves or of the passage of time. And if you notice maybe your boat, as an individual, you notice your boat being veered off course, it might only be kind of gentle winds and you can steer it back on course. But other times it might actually be stormy weather. Those waves might be taking a bit more of a hold. And you have to navigate, try a little bit harder to stay on track. Athletes and us as human beings inevitably find ourselves in moments of high pressure, of high demands, when we too might lose sight of the lighthouse and our own values, but they're never lost. What's important is that actually they're just harder to see in that current situation. It's that current situation which makes us lose contact with what's important to us. And from experience, it's kind of difficult thoughts or difficult emotions which actually influence our behaviour in an unhelpful or a helpful way. So rather than kind of helping us move towards the light, moving towards that lighthouse that you can see in front of you, we often see kind of shorter, instant benefits to avoid feelings, or to avoid feeling a certain way, to avoid feeling really tired, to avoid having to get up at a certain time, or do one more thing. And in that moment, as I said, we're often trying to get rid of those thoughts or feelings that are there with us. So in essence, we've got these two different pathways. We've got the pathway on the left, looking at that values-driven pathway towards the light, towards the lighthouse, how you're wanting to be acting. And we've got the avoidance-driven pathway, which maybe is pushing us away from how we want to be or who we want to be, in trying to avoid feeling or thinking a certain way in that instant moment. Before I move on, do we have any questions or anything? No? Cool.
Has come through yet on the chat box, Fionnuala, just to keep you updated.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're going to go on a slightly kind of experiential journey here. I'm going to give you the time and space to maybe connect with a couple of your values or a few of your values, see what pops up for you, and bring this to life a little bit more. As I said, we've got a choice with which way you want to go, but first off, we need to understand what they might be. Now, if we were in person, I'd have loads of different cards and would be able to play around with these. But as we're not, I've done my best at a word cloud instead. So on the screen in front of you, you've got a load of different values. I'm aware that there's a lot on here, but I need to put a lot to make sure that they do connect, or they have a space with you all. So I'll just talk a little bit slower as you read through some of these. But as you're reading through them, I just want you to think about which jump out for you, which values do you connect with, which do you think, if you had to narrow these down to 5 or 6, which ones would they be? You could say, when completing this challenge, this transformation challenge, how do you want to be during this, the next 4 weeks?
Honest.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You can also kind of zoom out further as well, and this is where I was saying that this isn't just helpful for this challenge, but also as you go through life at a whole. But zooming out and asking yourself the question, how do you want to be in your relationship with others? How do you want to be with yourself? How do you want to be with your friends and with your family? We tend to find quite a lot of crossover and similarity between that, but also good to have maybe a couple of different eyes on it. So have a little think, and if you do have a pen or paper or have anything in front of you where you can just jot down maybe 5 or 6 which are coming out for you, that would be great. Give us a bit of an example as well. So 2 that might be jumping out from you are family, are health, and delving deeper, maybe if we were to talk and explore that further, what's important to you is to be able, in terms of in relation to the transformation challenge, is to be able that you can see the rest of your family grow, that you can share those special moments with them through the years, and that you remain healthy and fit in order to do so. So that's just kind of where we're going with being able to pick out and draw parallels then, and connect these values to why you signed up to the challenge, on your overarching why. So now we've got those values, hopefully you've got them. If not, just let me know and I'll go back to the slide. But I want you to have a think about, now you've got those in terms of what's important to you, in terms of what you've connected with, and for sure there might be words on there which I haven't got and you have come up with, and that's brilliant. But have a think about what behaviours demonstrate this value. So if, for example, I was a fly on the wall, or if you were watching yourself on television, how would you tell that you were living out your values? What specific behaviours would we see? Now, again, this is a brilliant one. I'll share some examples from sport. This is a brilliant one that we do in the sporting context. You might have a gymnast that says, I want to, it's important that I communicate with my coach. If we think about what communication looks like, we can take that down to various different levels, from body language through the actual language we use, through how they're even moving around the gym, And so if I was in that gym environment as a psychologist operating and walking around, what would I know or what would I see that would tell me that this gymnast and this coach are communicating well with each other without actually going in and asking what they're feeling or what they're saying. So in terms of you in the OTF situation and transformation challenge, what behaviours do you give off, or what behaviours do you demonstrate and act which actually shows that you're that what you've said is important to you? And again, if we take that one step further and put that into a context, if you think of a time in the last 4 weeks on this challenge that you came across an obstacle or a difficult situation or a challenging moment, no matter how big or small, how did you approach that situation? So think of your response to that. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? And crucially, that second question, what were your actions and behaviours? Were they in line with the values that you've just chosen as important to you? Is there a way that you can draw those parallels and those links together? And were the consequences of those actions and behaviours that you took, were they helping you move towards some of the goals that you've set out for yourself around this transformation challenge? Or maybe that bigger overarching why that you've signed up for the challenge. Well, I guess this really shows, or hopefully linking together some of the bits that I said at the start around how this is sparking some kind of thought process inside of you, sparking some kind of curiosity with your mindset and how you're mentally approaching different situations or challenges, but also linking that to, as a psychologist, understanding those different frames, or however many of us are on today. So all 12 of us will come with our own experiences, our own frame of the world. And so making sure that this is individualized and that it's you thinking about you versus you is that common term, is a really key component of being able to maximize your own mindset and your own approach. Again, if we've got anyone that maybe would like to share just a couple of their values that's popping out. Go for it. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I was a bit, I don't know if I've lost my way a little bit, because I think I talk about values a lot because I'm like in business land and corporate land. So I talk about values a lot. And I think there was one point where you said, what values do you want to display for the rest of this transformation challenge?
Mm-hmm.
And two that I wrote down were kind and patient, and the kindness, because I'm not kind to myself when I metaphorically fall off the wagon. I'm not kind to myself. In fact, I stay off the wagon for the rest of the day, weekend, and don't get back on until the Monday. So and I beat myself up mentally for it. So being kind to myself was one of the things. And then the patient thing as well is like, I am one of those people who, eats spinach for lunch and expects to have lost weight that day. So, it's like, and I need to just give myself a bit of space and a bit of time, and trust that it's coming and it will come. I've had to put my scales away to enforce that patience. But yeah, I just need to be a bit more patient, I think, and trust in the long term of the process.
Yeah, they're brilliant ones. Thank you for sharing, Carolyn. That first one there around being kind. We are, aren't we? We're incredibly, as humans, incredibly unkind to ourselves at times, especially when we're taking on a challenge. We seem to be even more unkind to ourselves. And actually, what kind of behaviours might or even those thoughts or acts might you do to help demonstrate or live out that kindness? So is there anything that's, I guess, have a think about what's popping up around how you can incorporate those little compassion moments or compassionate moments throughout a day, no matter what's going on, and start to form habits with you doing them, whether that be the gratefulness at the end of the day. And there is a lot of research backing the long-term effects of being able to look into that.
Yeah, through another program, I've been doing daily successes at the end of the day, because I'm so focused on like the big outcome, you know, the big end result, without recognizing that it's a good thing that I chose a protein ball instead of a chocolate bar, you know, that sort of thing. So I have been doing a daily successes diary, and I've probably done it like 35 out of 40 days, but it does make a difference. It really does. So yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. What a great habit to have started and to continue. And then the patience. Well, that's a brilliant behaviour, isn't it, that you've shown there? Just putting the scales away. I think in the short term, that's definitely, I guess, can help keep some of that that kindness and that compassion going. And sometimes we talk about having to distract us. Sometimes it's not as easy as just saying, you know what, just don't go on them. I'm just going to keep it. Actually, we do need to remove that, and that's okay as well. But anything else there around the patience and being able to remind around the process, or remind of those small daily habits and activities, rather than, like you say, that outcome. And if your work is quite outcome focused as well, you can find yourself always, whatever component of your life, whether that be personal or professional, go into that outcome. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you too.
And I guess what I wanted to almost look at here is the point of values being things which maybe intrinsically motivate you. They're values which sit below that surface level, below what we maybe see or hear, and actually things which are, as I alluded to earlier, maybe require a bit more vulnerability to go in and to be honest with ourselves for what is it that really sits here. Especially when sometimes some of those values will be around money or around success, which might have other connotations towards. Now moving on in the last sort of 15 minutes or so to the final component of this, SPLAT. So SPLAT is all about what you want to do on the day. What are you doing each day to take that pathway driven by your values, to take the pathway which moves you closer to where you want to be, rather than maybe acting out of line with those values. So those moments, Carolyn, for example, of when you're not being patient, you're not being kind, how can you make sure that you're on that pathway, you're on that road towards always being kind and compassionate, as well, with a little bit of that patience. And this one might be particularly useful because, I guess, as humans, we are driven by emotions. We're driven by short-term wins, by that immediate gratification, which serves us well in the immediacy of kind of pressing that snooze button, which maybe is what I would do at a 6 a.m. class, or opting for that extra after 8, which is definitely what I did last night. But in the long term, it may push us away from where we want to get to, or equally the type of person that we want to be, and how we want to be kind of holding ourselves day in, day out. And I guess at this point, it's over to you. It's over to you to turn this into action, to bring it alive and to live it out in your actions and in your behaviours. And you have that choice, and you have that power. Quite often we forget that this is a choice. And having been through that kind of ready and set, and having that deeper sense of maybe how we can tie some of the intrinsic values to what's really meaningful. And again, this is just a start. This is just a start of this exploration of your mindset, of what things are important to you. But this bit is around how we can use our actions and how we can bring the best version of us on that day. So being conscious and being deliberate in our thought process at the start of the day, in terms of what's your intention for the day and how do you want to show up today. Now, whichever of the 4 Lego images you want to show up like today, or even some other ones which might be popping up, it doesn't matter. But having the conscious, the deliberate focus of your own attention on that, maybe aligning them to some of the values which you've found and said are important, is what's key in that moment. And they're the two key questions really, which I'd anchor anyone to in that moment of being able to transform those thoughts, those values, those beliefs into action. And the second box below is focused on kind of on mastering that art of showing up. And again, Carolyn, this might be a good one for when you were saying in terms of falling off the wagon and maybe not getting back up. This one is around building a focus on building habits and developing new routines, which we often make harder by having lofty goals, which we then struggle to stick to. But in keeping it simple and connecting to, right, in the next 10 minutes, what can I commit to? That's all it has to be. And we often find it harder to start than to keep on going. So that phrase, kind of motivation comes after action, is a good one here. So setting yourself in motion can be an extremely good place to start, and just reducing that down to the next 10 minutes can help us not feel like it's, oh, well, I've got to do this for the next 7 hours or the next 4 weeks even. And in this way, it focuses on the output rather than the outcome. So rather than something having to be perfect, having to have that perfectly prepared meal where you've got your carbohydrates, your protein and everything in order, actually it's just doing something simple and controllable, and maybe opting for, you know what, I'm just going to have something which I know has all my components of my meal, rather than it hitting my macros as well. So in the next 10 minutes, what can you commit to? And keeping that as that simple, controllable phrase that will motivate you into action, rather than keeping you stuck in that inaction. And I guess as we bring this to a close, because I'm conscious of time, and if there are any questions, just want to leave a little bit of time. But I want us to remember and acknowledge that things do take time to develop, things do take time to evolve. And what's important is those little day-to-day habits that we can do each day to add up, and they gradually accumulate over time. They're gradually, each one is one of those bricks on the screen in front of you, which leads us down the pathway to that lighthouse. Although at that moment in time, we might not be fully recognising it as quite as monumentous as the wall that we've then created when we take the chance to step back. And with that in mind, I guess in summary, if we can paint that deeper picture of our intention through those values, and through really knowing our why, we can begin to turn that into action every single day. Quite a nice visual on the screen there of showing the combination and the interaction between how our goals, thoughts, intentions, feelings, and ultimately actions all play a role in being able to be that best version of us on that particular day. Doesn't have to be the best version of us ever. Right, I will stop sharing there just to finish on a lovely quote, because I do love a quote. You are the change. How are we all? Do we have any questions? There we go. Thanks, Katie, for having a look at them. Do we have any questions, any thoughts, anything that anyone would like to share this evening?
I think so. It's been really interesting. I'm a huge believer in the power of the mind, and you know the God love Orange theory, putting those quotes on the wall. You know, when you're at the end of your all out and you read those quotes like "leave better than you arrived" and things like that. They're great. I just wondered if you had any tips for making this a habit. So, you know, like these are things that some of these things are things that I know about, and some of the things are things that I don't. But knowing about it and doing it are two separate things. Have you got any tips for making this a habit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there, in terms of tying something to a reward, and a reward being, it could be that actually you do have, you know, if you do have a sweet treat every single day, or there's something that you look forward to in your day, whether that be even a walk at the end of a working week. Initially, tying activities to a reward is a good place to start. So some of you might have heard of the kind of the notion of that behavioural reinforcement with Pavlov's dogs, and every time so there was an experiment done. I'm not sure it would be allowed to ethically be done now, but years and years ago, an experiment done with dogs, but this also has been replicated in various different animals, but in essence, if we can tie an experience to a reward, that's what our brain recognises, and therefore knows that actually if you're doing X, it's likely to be a good outcome. So beginning with starting any kind of habit by linking it to a reward is a good place to start. Have you got an example, Carolyn?
Not in particular. It's probably just the fact that this is something that I know about, or some of the things that you've shared are things that I know about but haven't taken action on.
Yeah.
And so it's you know, it's a thing to first sit down and work through it, and then it's a thing to keep it up. So it's just how I bring it into my you know, my conscious mind rather than subconscious.
Even things, and sometimes we're like, oh, we should be able to do stuff without a reminder on our phone, but actually a reminder on our phone, or having to commit to something with a friend, so that it's we are holding ourselves accountable, and we don't want to let others down. But again, as we start to do them more and more, it creates that kind of habit loop in our brain, reinforcing those pathways. Which I guess does take a little bit of time, and I think quite often we think that habits don't take as long as they really do, especially ingrained ones. We could be looking up to 3 months for a habit to stick. So often we give up too easily. Not saying that you're giving up.
I really like that quote at the end, that, you know, I am the change. So it is me. And one of the things that I do is every morning, one of the first things I do is book my next class. But when I say my next class, it's the one at the end of September, you know. And so that thing of having the reminder in my phone, because I get it to put it into my phone that I've got a class that day, you know. So I'm looking for the following week, oh, what have I got on? And my Orange Theory classes are all in there. You know, I've booked them up, and for me that really makes a big difference to being committed to continuing with those things that are important to me. So my health and fitness, for my longevity of life, and wanting to spend time with my daughter, etc. So so that's what I do as a habit, and it just is an automatic thing. I don't even think about it. I pick the phone up, do it, booked. And I might change it. I don't know that on the 29th of September what I might be doing, but my class is booked. You know.
I book in advance as well, and I think this is, for me, it's just about like I say, those daily wins. So and you know what, Orange Theory is the first gym that I've not struggled to go to because I want to go. So, you know, I like you, I booked my classes in, and we've probably all been hovering over that 90-minute class for this Saturday and waiting for it to come up and accept it today. And so you know, the classes I don't struggle with. For me it's food, and in the last 4 weeks I've been getting my meals now from Small's Kitchen that were at Orange Theory in Derby, and so that for me, I get 3 lunches from her, and that's replaced 3 crap lunches with 3 good lunches. And the fact that I've got them and they don't freeze and they're going off means that I'm more likely to eat them. So there's little things chipping away like that for me that I just need to slowly build out, and that's a habit now. So I just need to, you know, find where else I can improve my diet as well.
Another way to look at that, which might be useful, is to recognise kind of where you fall short. So on those days that you mentioned, where are kind of the barriers or the obstacles, or what do you find slips you up? Is it kind of your, and there's, from a psychology perspective, we can look at kind of 3 key areas. So you can look at your kind of capability to actually cook. So I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but sometimes we find, for example, with the athletes, they just don't know how to cook. They don't know They
I
can't.
can relate, yeah. I'm not a good cook and I don't enjoy it either. So
There we go, see? So you've got kind of the cooking and actually kind of doing it and knowing what to put together. So things like kind of Mindful Chef can be brilliant because they provide you, although you still have to cook it, it provides with a bit more of the step-by-step, and you've got your ingredients there. The second one is kind of opportunity. So actually, do you have the time? So sometimes I know when I'm working away, I just don't have the time to or the opportunity to cook a meal. So I have a very kind mother that quite often or I have to really, really prep and be really mindful and put that into earlier on in my day. And the other one is kind of motivation. Do you even want to do it? So there it sounds like actually I'm not that bothered. I'm quite happy to, do you have the motivation to engage in that? And so those three different ones, if we can start to unpick where do we fall short, then it might give you a bit more of a, I guess, a go-to of where to hone in your efforts. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a really good, point for me to think through, because I did quite a lot of identifying triggers. And ironically, one of my triggers for eating bad food used to be going to Orange Theory, because I'd go to Orange Theory and then go next door but one and go to Home Bargains and buy a bag of licorice all sorts. And that's a habit that I've thankfully broken now. So, but even if I go back in that store, it's one of my triggers now. So, but that capability and opportunity and the motivation piece are really good things for me to have a think through. And actually whether or not I've even the desire to, so cooking, I don't enjoy it, so I don't have the desire to. I'd love to be able to, but I don't have. But I feel so far from the vision that I want to be in cooking that I'm happy to just pay somebody else to do the cooking.
And that's absolutely okay, isn't it? If you identify that that's one of those that where you get slipped up, and if you're happy with that. If not, there is that the Mindful Chef. I don't know if you've used it, but that is good to be able to kind of walk you through it. But
I love Mindful Chef and HelloFresh and all of that, but I live with two full spots, a husband and a 5-year-old, so they're both fussy eaters.
They can cook their own.
Yeah, they can have chicken nuggets and chips every night.
Oh, brilliant. I'm conscious of time, guys. So yeah, thank you all kind of very much for tuning on tonight and engaging. And if there are any questions that pop up, please do feel free to kind of get in touch or grab me in the gym when you see me. It'd be always happy to chat more. So I'll hand back over to you, Katie.
Thank you, Fionnuala. That was really, really good. I think you've all inspired us most definitely on this midweek evening. So thank you. Just a couple of things that as you were talking there, I thought I have to say something that helped me, and I notice the difference when I do this to when I don't. And I've had to have a conversation myself, think, get back into it. You are, you feel different. You get up every morning feeling different when you do this. And for me, it's when I read inspirational things, authors, people with experiences on goal setting, all about their why. And it might be 15 minutes a day. And as I start to have this frame, as I read, I get the frame of thinking of how they do, and it constantly inspires me. And I find that when I do that, more like the law of attraction happens. You start to see things differently because you're surrounding yourself with all this positivity. So I would if anyone wants to get into reading, there's a Kindle Unlimited. It's like $7.99 a month, and it's got the most amazing books on there. And I would just say that that's something that when I didn't, also religiously getting up at the same time every day. Even if I don't need to be up, I get up and I read my 3 intentions for that day. And when I start my day off that way versus to when I don't, I'm a little bit slower that day. So for me, I found that I'm somebody that needs routine. And when I don't have routine, or I'm in a new routine, I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Find this new routine, and I need to feel a little bit more settled. So that was 2 things that I just had to say, that hearing what you've said, what helps me, and if I can, that's a golden nugget for anybody, maybe, that's, set their alarm tomorrow or start a book tomorrow, anything like that. And if you want any authors or any good books, I'll write it on the comments on the chat when we post this video over the next couple of days. But Fionnuala, it was amazing. I think Hanny, raise your hand then just to round off.
I just wanted to say there was one thing that Fionnuala's helped me with, and I'm I was like you about routines. It had to be routine, but actually for me, the routine got me really down, because if I didn't do that routine, and something that Fionnuala's really helped me with is, you know, actually routine sometimes can be quite, you know, it's a great thing to do, but sometimes routine, you know, it's okay to be outside of the routine. You know, you've not done that evening class before, you've not done that 6 a.m. class. So actually being outside of the routine is also amazing. Routines can help, but being outside of that can also be a really good thing as well. So don't be afraid if you don't manage to make that 6 a.m. class, you know, mix it up, go to an evening class if you've not before, you'll meet new people, go to a 6 a.m. class. So for me, doing different things has helped me keep motivated in a weird way, just keeping it, mixing it up all the time. So
thanks, Hannah.
Both are good. Routines and not routines. It's all good.
Definitely, it's how we grow by breaking our comfort zone, isn't it? That was amazing. Thank you. You've got a lot of people on the comments saying thank you as well. We will make sure we reshare this. We'll get it uploaded onto the Transformation Challenge group, and we'll get it shared, and it'll be in your emails as well on our weekly email. But thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Fionnuala. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.